Local amateur NASCAR driver. You have those too. Okay. Jesus Christ, I'm so bad at Tetris. So, my Discord server has an origin story. And I'm just gonna talk about it. And I wanted to hit record real quick, because I guess I'll also put this on YouTube. Back in, like, back in 2020, or early 2020, about 10 or so, I think it was more than 10, but really it was just like 10 people had this crazy idea. I kind of keep the details vague about it when I go into this part of the server's history because it involves other people, but like, I don't think anyone cares anymore. So, here's the deep lore. There was a group of... It wasn't entirely 10 people, it was like a little bit more than 10 people, but like, group chats can only hold 10 people, so... What started out as like... Man, how do I... I'm tired, okay? How do I condense this story into like something watchable and not like a ramble, while also maintaining... Jesus, look at that time. What the fuck is wrong with me? So, like, way back in 2020, I was a moderator on an old Sonic server. Well, not an old Sonic server. It was like a server for one of the spin-off games, like one of the racing games that had come out in 2019. And I originally volunteered to be a moderator on the Team Sonic Racers Discord because I had completely missed out on ASRT's heyday, and I got really competitive with ASRT in the later part of its life. But by the time I really wanted to get into playing it, the only people who were left playing it were people who were so insanely good at it that the best I could hope for... And keep in mind, this is when I was in my, like, early to mid-20s. Still had... I don't want to say functioning eyesight, but my eyes didn't have any of the problems that they do now. My hands definitely didn't have the problems they do now. So, like, I was disabled but healthy, and I could barely come in 5th place half the time. Even after, like, doing really well at stuff like Traffic Attack, which is the most garbage fucking game mode in the entire history of any racing game because it is deeply unfair, and the people who say that it's perfectly reasonable are masochistic, which a lot of the remaining ASRT community are. But I got really into that game, and I really just wanted to be there for when it was really big, so when they announced TSR, I was like, I can be there for this. I can actually be involved in the community, and I can be a competitor in events, and I can be, like, I can do something, and I won't miss out this time. And of course, TSR fucking died. Like, it got no support from Sonic Team. It got completely abandoned by Sumo Digital because they couldn't... Like, Sega wouldn't greenlight any of the changes they made. Like, there are still bug fix changes that are on the beta branch on Steam and never came to console because they just... Like, Sega was like, no, just abandon it. And that's it. And it's a dead game. It actually had a ranked mode. And I'm really sad about it dying and, like, the ranked mode getting no support. and it feels like people who made it had like an actual idea of what they wanted and were just not able to realize it because of I wanna blame it on company politics or something. But it sucks a bit because I actually liked it when it was alive. And the most I ended up doing for it was just participating in like a single charity event. Like I wasn't really a streamer in the way I am now. But I did like participate as in it was such a dead game by the time that by the time that event came around that I was the only person besides the person who was actually scheduled to stream it that was even playing. I was kind of keeping an event alive at one point because they were the only person playing and I was playing against them and kind of beating their ass actually because I used to be really good at games like that. I used to be really good at those games. Like, I mean, I wasn't like top tier or anything. Like, people who took them really seriously would absolutely destroy me. But like, no, against everyone else, I had to set the AI to S class just to give myself a handicap. So it was kind of like, they're streaming it, they're kind of doing it because it was scheduled, and it's for charity, so I'm like, you know, I can just switch off my main if this is frustrating, because I know that, like, not everyone plays this game like an idiot, and they're like, no, you can play whatever you want. It was pretty funny, too, because everyone knew me as the person who was, quote-unquote, in everybody's games, because I just waited for people to play that game. But anyway, I ended up moderating for the Discord for a bit. And I thought, you know, the game's struggling to stay alive. Nothing really happens with this game. And all I want to do is, like, host events. That was it. That was my dream. That was all I wanted. The uphill battle to get anything going for that game, I will... Like, the culture surrounding that game is what happens, effectively, when a studio has abandoned a project. The fans lose faith in it. Even the most stalwart fans eventually lose faith in it. Like, there was an entirely different Discord server just for the Switch version. It was the most alive the game was. I don't know why in the world the game was so dead on PC. Like, ASRT's PC support was amazing. But for some reason, the Switch version of all things ended up being the most alive one. And that was disheartening, because the Switch had by far the worst online. So it was like, no spectator mode, no mods, because it wasn't on PC, so you couldn't mod out the AI, and you couldn't mod in a spectator mode. Wow, my throat is really dry. So, like, getting anything going for that game at all was just insanely difficult. I apologize for my crap play. So it was like, I kind of understand where a lot of the people were coming from. By the time I became a moderator, it was already kind of a dead dream, and I was probably a bit naive to push for what I did with it, and kind of get. It was probably slightly unfair to get frustrated. But that was, like, probably the entire reason that everything else happened on that server. Like, it wasn't a bad community. It wasn't terrible. We had a couple of normal community problems, like that one guy that just talks way too much and dominates chat. We had the resident toxic troll who you kind of keep around just because they counter troll the trolls you don't that you like less. We had the stupid kids that were probably like actually 12 years old and you just tolerate them because, well, you can't prove they're underage and they're annoying as shit, but they'll grow out of it or something. You know, we had, like, the normal community problems. We didn't really have any major issues with anyone in the community. Most of the major issues came from some of the admins being really dumb. I don't want to say they were awful people, but sometimes they were dumb. Like, we had one responsible senior mod. He was the guy who handled all the bots, and he's actually the guy in my Discord who handles all the bots. When the bots break, I go yell at him. So he comes from that. He was the one good senior mod we actually had. The others were either absent, or abused their power to bully the rest of us into, like, not disagreeing with the admin when the admin does something stupid. The admin did something stupid at one point on a, like, probably 3 times a week. Either didn't handle the situation in the public channels very well, said they were going to try to quote-unquote revive the game with quote-unquote big plans, and did not follow through. Or, like, fucked off to play Smash for, like, 8 hours straight. Just didn't tell us that's what they were doing. Anyway. As much as I want to say, oh, it's just bad server management, oh, it's bad community stuff, whatever, bullshit. The truth is, it was because the game was dead, and didn't have any support. And there was friction in the community because the game was dead. And that's it. That's kind of the whole thing. And so, after, like, an infinite amounts of bullshit, and some other things that I won't go into because they're not really that important, me and some other mods decided to just leave. Like, we were like, nah, let's just go. This place isn't really worth it anymore. The situation's gotten too toxic. And so we wanted to make our own Discord, and we wanted to do it mostly because we liked actually managing communities. We liked actually, like, working with people. And the one thing we really wanted to do, and that we really was our goal, was like, when we make promises to the community, we want to be able to fulfill those promises. And I genuinely believe everyone went into the initial project that we started out with this goal in mind. Like, everyone's like, I just want to, like, we had our own ideas about what to do with this place. Explains the lengthy announcement posts. Which ones? Mine? Yeah, no, I ADHD, right? Sometimes I really wish Discord would just give us a feature that lets us, like, put specifically announcement stuff in a more organized format. I guess I could, like, up the server to community status and, like, force everyone to verify their accounts, do all this other invasive privacy shit that I think is intrusive and should probably be illegal and may very well be illegal in several EU regions, but fucking whatever, I guess. But no, anyway, I can bitch about Discord's questionable management shit later. I actually want to tell this story. So, the lengthy post, I mean. Yeah. No, but... So, we all came from a Sonic server. But I'll tell you, what we wanted from the start was to make a place, primarily, that hosted events. Our goal was to make a place where people could actually be a community. And we wanted to just put in all the changes that never got put in. I think one of the saltiest ones that was implemented first in our little proto-Discord server was a second general chat, because there was just this entire fucking B-plot of arguing with the lead admin about, we have a server of 1,000 fucking people, why is there one general chat? There's like one general chat for like actual general, and then there's one general chat for specifically the game. And the admin's like, well no, people can just use the game channel when it's not being used. And I'm like, okay, but no one really understands that's what it's for. And I'm like, trying to think of compromises that satisfy, because the admin has a vision for his server, and I tried thinking of compromises that would work. A lot of it just seemed like being really pedantic and not really thinking about the practicality of whatever he was doing, and I stopped trying to dissect whatever went on in the guy's brain a long time ago. But basically, for whatever reason, we just weren't allowed to make a second general, even though we desperately needed one. For a server of that many people, and it wasn't exactly a dead server. Like, people posted in it daily. At one point, there was enough activity that we contemplated whether or not we should enable slow mode, and I opted to not, because I feel like slow mode is kind of like... I've never liked it. I think it's restrictive. I think it punishes people with ADHD, especially, because people with ADHD in chats tend to, like, condense their posts down into, like, several posts instead. So, it's, like, actively ableist to me. I know of a big server that uses slow mode, by the way. That server wants to be one of those inclusive spaces, and I say inclusive in air quotes, but honestly, I do feel like the inclusion of slow mode is fucking ableist. Anyway, that was the first thing we did. We saltily added a second general. And then we started to get to work on, like, okay, we need a theme for this place. Otherwise, it's gonna die. And so we kind of brainstormed for a bit. We put together all of the things that we wanted to do. Since the big one was toast events, we're like, well, we need to have, like, a focus on, like, competitive games, because if we don't have, like, if we want to run, like, a space that hosts events and stuff, we probably want to make it clear that that's what the space is going to be for. But also, I made kind of a mistake early on with this Discord, and it kind of still bothers me. Because as much as I did not want to be the leader, I ended up being the de facto leader. I was the most active person. I don't want to say the most enthusiastic. I think there were people who were equally enthusiastic. But everyone kind of followed what I suggested, and I feel really bad about this now, because I didn't take that... I don't want to say that I didn't take it seriously, but I didn't really appreciate the gravity of that until way after the fact, and everything had just kind of went to shit. But what we started out with was, we all came from a Sonic Discord. Let's just make a Sonic server. I know there's a lot of them, But, like, we want to do one, and we want it to be community-focused. And here's the thing. I think if I wanted to make a Discord today, and it had a bunch of people from fandom in it, I would make that call again. I would say, well, we all come from fandom. We're passionate about that fandom. Let's focus it around that. It is something to anchor it in so that it's not just hanging in space community that doesn't have any connection to anything else. But instead of doing that, I actually steered it away from being a fandom server because I was worried it wouldn't stick out enough. So that was probably my first and biggest mistake. And I probably killed its chances by doing that, of becoming something, if I'm honest. Like, if I didn't do that, I wonder if it would still survive, and I'd still be kind of on it, doing things within that space with everyone else instead. Because that was the point when somebody left. I guess they didn't like the idea of running something that wasn't hooked into the thing that they were invested in as much. I don't really know why they left, to be fair. I could speculate about it all day. Maybe they just had their own stuff going on. Or maybe they didn't really want to involve with some of the drama that came up near the end. Which I can't blame them. Well, anyway. We still wanted a server based on competitive games. And we... Man, that's a bad move. But we didn't really have a conversation about what everyone was capable of doing, running, or specifically interested in refereeing. That was the second mistake. Someone was a good tool for the right reasons, but never in general chats. It shouldn't be on all the time. Slow mode is good. In certain channels during certain times when there's going to be a lot of people in chat and you want to have somebody actively responding to messages. It makes it easier to read shorter messages like what people typically send in Twitch chat, especially if you're a sighted person. It's a good compromise to have like 5-second slow mode or whatever enabled in those. But if you just have it enabled in a general chat, when the flow of conversation tends to be more sporadic anyway, but it also tends to be a lot more slow, you end up with like some people feeling stilted. Well, the thing is, the Discord that I'm complaining about with that, they don't really care about running a community. I'm not going to say which Discord this is. The only thing I'll say about it is that it kind of exists, first and foremost, as more of a live help desk for some merch than anything else. Like, it's not really meant to be a community anyway. And the people who make it a community are kind of doing so, like, against... I think against the, like... I don't want to say the wishes, but, like, against the attitude of the people who run it. I mean, I'm sure that the people who run that Discord think that they've made a community, but they don't really make... They don't make the kind of concessions for a community that you have to, and they don't really care that much about things like whether or not people feel like they can self-express and whether or not people feel like they can communicate easily. They kind of are more concerned with whether or not activity affects the brand that they have more than they are with making a community. Like, they don't seem like they really want to manage one. They kind of seem like they just wanted to make a Discord for the sake of having an easily accessible help desk for, like, what they're selling, which is fine, I guess. Discord doesn't really have rules against this, and it actively encourages it, so they're not really doing anything wrong. And if you just accept that some Discords are made by and maintained by people who don't really have a passion for community management the way that someone like me does, then it makes a lot more sense, and it just becomes a community that I interact with for not really the stated reason, but what becomes the apparent reason of why it exists. Like, again, I'm not going to say what Discord that is, because as neutral as I am kind of slapping the mods in the face and telling them that they're shit at their job. Which, if their job were to make... If their actual goal were to make a community, they would be terrible at their jobs. But, honestly, I don't think that it is. I don't think that is first and foremost the priority of the people running the Discord. I really think, they want as little like problematic interaction as possible, and a good way to get that is just to like minimize the kind of interaction that people can really have anyway. Which, to be fair, this is not specific to Discord. A lot of old forums that were run by large game companies like Insomniac would also kind of operate like this. Because you didn't really want to deal with a bunch of shit, and human beings bring shit with them everywhere they go. So, like, whatever. That's not how I run my communities. I'll never run a community like that. Damn, I could get it perfect if I build this correctly, but I won't, because I won't. Anyway. So, the second mistake that we made with our server was we didn't really sit down and talk about what we could do. And by that I mean, I found out after the fact, after we had all these plans and stuff, and we started to really get into the minutia of how we were going to manage events and things on our server. And keep in mind, this is after we made the decision, and by we, I mean, I kind of feel like I forced the hand of several people, and I, to this day, regret this decision, because I think this actually really crippled us. But, it turns out a lot of the people who were going to be moderating with us didn't even own a PC. And I didn't know this about most of the mods at the time. And it didn't matter on a Sonic Discord of people who, of which the credentials were, have a level head, be into Sonic, and, like, know how to manage a community, or at least have enough, like, maturity to do that. Like, there's kind of like a running joke in what has just become our group chat, but was originally where we planned the Discord. It's just a running joke about the one guy who has no PC. But that guy is the oldest of, like, several... I forgot how many siblings he has. Like, 4 or 5? He's the oldest. And he knows how to moderate because he's used to, like, dealing with his younger siblings. And being the mature one. And, like, the responsible one. So, like, he had all the credentials necessary to be a good moderator. And honestly, as far as I know, the guy always was. Like, everyone in there was always good at moderation. Like, they understood what it took to be a good mod. But when it came to actually doing stuff, doing more than just, like, making sure that every side of a fight is heard, or that, like, people can go to you for help if they need it, or, like, managing Discord bots, when it became more than that, it's like, the people that we had, including myself, were really unequipped, honestly. In my case, it was because I have a lot of health problems, and they were getting worse by 2020. Like, the fatigue was really starting to set in, like, pretty bad in 2020. Honestly, it started at the end of 2019, even. Just the point when my body started to switch from the, like, sporadic, kind of like, I have infinite energy pace I had before to the, like, slow, deliberate march that I just associate with getting older now. And I didn't really have the ability to do the things I did when I was younger, so I could not be the person who held everything together. I actually needed the help of the other people, and they couldn't provide it because a lot of them didn't have the hardware. Some of them... 2 of them were still in high school, and I didn't know that. Because, I mean, they were moderators on a place that had a lot of kids on it, and they were always so level-headed about everything that I just never questioned that they were adults until it came up. And it was like, I knew at least one person was like 15 at the time. And I was like, whatever, age is... I don't want to say that phrase. That phrase is associated with some nasty shit. Like, age is kind of, in situations like that, irrelevant online. Like, age matters online in very specific situations, and all of those situations involve sex. And none of us were really doing that, so I didn't have to worry about, like, asking people their age, because, like, the context we knew each other on was a fucking Sonic Discord. So it was like, then it came up that not only does almost everyone, like, college age, or in some cases literally in fucking high school still, and they didn't have the money to even buy their own hardware, but also we had, like, wildly different specializations for games. Mine was Tetris, obviously. It doesn't look like it now. I used to be better at this game. Another person's was Smash Brothers. Everyone kind of had interest in, like, the racing games like ASRT. But running them was difficult because we all owned them on different systems. And we kind of struggled. We're like, how are we gonna do this? How are we going to set up a schedule when no one can really, like... And I kind of told them, I'm like, you know, I'm old and I'm tired. I don't know if I can do a lot of things on my own. Which, to be fair, no one really expected me to. Like, we made the server together. I don't think we really took the time to think about what we were doing, though. And we didn't really... Because all we really wanted was to be able to manage a community that, without the frustration or the drama, like... And I think a lot of the heartache was that we liked the community we came from, but we didn't feel like we could do anything, and some of the things that happened behind this curtain kind of made us feel pretty useless and unappreciated sometimes. Like, every suggestion got shot down, not even just by the admin, but also by all the streamers and community who said our game was dead and not worth playing. When I suggested expanding, it was shut down because, no, there are other discords for that, which there were. And, in the admin's defense, we were partnered with one, so I guess he didn't want to step on their toes. And I'm like, at one point, I even suggested just merging with one of them, and, you know, I don't think anyone was really fond of that idea, because how do you even merge a server that's that big? It was a pretty stupid, half-hearted idea on my part, to be fair. I think I said it as a joke. But we like... No real session 0. Yeah. Yeah, like... We were all people. we were all the like community oriented moderators. And to be fair, every single one of the people who came from the moderator position is good at that job. I'm not even saying that anyone who I formed this thing with were like bad at their jobs. They're not. There was one guy I would consider the technical aspect, and it was because he could handle all the Discord bots. He helped me set up. He still helps me set up YAG. He was the one person I took with me in my Discord because he could handle the bots, and I knew that I needed at least a couple of technical people on board. And so that's why he's there, and that's also why my friend Draco moderates on there, and also because Draco kind of like reels in my more insane bouts of inspiration, if you can call it that. I think the real thing that kind of really was the nail in the coffin. I think about this a lot. It was when I realized my part in it that influenced the whole thing. That everyone looked at me like the leader, even though I didn't want to be. I never wanted to be the leader. I still don't want to be the leader. I don't want to be the person who says and does and tells everyone else what we're doing. I don't want to be the person people look to for, like, a plan. Because I never feel like that person who deserves that. And I still, like, even with my own Discord, I'm like, I don't want to be the face of it. I just want it to be a place that I kind of curate. Like, my ideal for my Discord would have been if, like, multiple people could all help me. And that didn't happen. And it's probably something I've done. Like, that's probably my fault. Or maybe not, maybe fault is the wrong word, but it definitely, I was the person who made it, so it should have been something like my responsibility. But, like, no, the biggest mistake I made, I think, and at first I thought this was helping, was with this other Discord when I realized people were, like, depending on me for those answers, and I'm like, I might actually be stifling other people. Maybe I should just let them do what they want. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna step down. I'm not gonna be an admin anymore. I don't think it's a good idea. I might have been frustrated at the time, and I don't really remember exactly how this went down. And I don't really want to, like, misrepresent it. But there was also a bit of, like, genuine frustration on my part with, like, just realizing how ill-equipped we were to deal with what happened. So I stepped down, and I'm like, you guys should do what you want, and I think maybe what I've done is, like, police everyone too much. Because that's what it felt like to me. It didn't really feel like I'm the leader, everyone follows me. It felt like I'm kind of a tyrant, and I tell people what to do, and they do it. And I didn't think at all at the time that might have actually come from a sense of, like, trust, or at least, like, direction, that maybe the reason why people listened to me in the first place was because they thought that I had, if not good ideas, I had the most concrete of the ideas that we really put together. And all I can think of now, in hindsight, is, like, because what ended up happening is the thing quite literally died without me. Nobody knew what to do. I came back a week later to see how things were progressing, and they weren't. No one knew what to do. And that is definitely my fault. I definitely hung everyone out to dry while trying to basically fix what I saw as the problem, because I didn't want to be a toxic, like, influence the way that the last admin that we worked under was. I didn't really want to be that way, and I didn't want to, like, I didn't want to take something away from everyone again, and I felt like I was. But it turns out I was kind of keeping it together, and I kind of wonder in hindsight if that was good or a bad thing, like, keeping it together as in holding stuff together, or like forcing everyone to keep doing it. Like, I don't know. I don't have that answer. And I don't really want to bring it up to the people who worked on it either, because nobody really likes talking about it anymore. There's a bit of some interesting stories from it, though, I guess. I mean, I haven't gone into detail about all the things that we did. We actually had a really cool system on that Discord that I may or may not have stolen from a different server. I have thought of repeatedly reviving it for my current Discord because I thought it was fun, and I might still do that because I want to pivot more toward doing stuff for and with the community. And I don't know how I'm going to handle that because, again, I'm kind of doing this in small steps while I figure out what my health problems will allow me to do. So, let me think. My Discord server came originally from me realizing I don't have the energy to do a gaming server. And all of the people I started one with are great moderators when dealing with the community stuff. But when it comes to actually doing admin stuff, nobody really has the passion for it. And I wonder if maybe they would have if I hadn't taken the server in the direction it went. Like, if we just kept making a Sonic server, it probably would have been fine. It may not have stayed on competitive games. Maybe it would have just become a chill community place. That was kind of, like, loosely bonded together on a game franchise all of us care about. And, that would have been fine. I think that would have been fine. But it didn't end up that way, and I made my Discord with, like, well, I can do art and I like tabletop games, but I'm too much of a chicken shit to actually run them in public. Which was true at the time. In, like, early 2020, I had, I think I had a group I was playing with, and we... Actually, no, I didn't have that group until a year later. I'm trying to remember a timeline here. Made my server in early 2020. Yeah, I was too scared to actually commit to, like, running stuff in public, because for the same reasons I never felt like a leader, I also didn't feel like a good GM. And that is not a complex I ever really got over fully. I still do not feel like the most competent GM. I think some of that is from a completely different situation, but mostly it's because I never feel like the person who should be making decisions for others. And being a GM is nothing but making decisions for a group, with the hopes that the decision you make increases the fun of the other people involved. So, effectively, half the reason I made the server ended up being kind of a waste for a long time. And a friend of mine gave me the sage advice of, if your server isn't based on either a specific topic or you're not an influencer, it's not going to grow. And so in, like, summer of 2020, I started to stream more, with the goal in mind of growing the Discord. That was my original stream goal. It was, I want to grow a community. I know how to do community things, but I don't really know how to build one from scratch. And I, at the time, didn't really know what I would build it on. I just wanted to do a specific, like, set of skills that I was kind of good at, and also deliver on all the promises I didn't really get to deliver on with something I actually cared about, so... That's the deep shroom lore. It's the entirety of it. That's why the server exists. That's why I have tried running events on it. It's also at least partially why sometimes the events fall through, because I just get sick. There's really nothing deeper there. Like, I actually just do... I'm late for the deadlines, I'm late for the announcements and stuff, because I get sick. That's it. That's the reason. I wish it were deeper than that. I wish it were cooler. Like, drama, intrigue, and, like, politicking, and, like, a cool mystery. No, I'm just disabled and, like, have fucking issues out the ass. It's very cool. I did other things in other Discords. I ran Fan Art Friday in the Spyro Discord for a little bit, like the one connected to the subreddit, and I actually liked doing that. But I was consistently late on stuff, explaining to the last person I took it from, kind of after they got on my case about it, that a lot of it was because I was constantly sick. I sort of agreed with them in the end. Like, it's not a thing that I can keep doing because of my energy. If I don't devote time to streaming, then I won't grow a community of my own. And I ended up quitting doing it because the choice eventually became growing, like, doing stuff for the Spyro server, or, like, trying to grow my own space. And it's not that it was unimportant to me, because one thing that's always been kind of cool about something that you really care about is seeing the stuff people make out of that thing. So long as it's not fucking shipping, keep that shit away from me. If you ship around me, I will, like, put you on a list, and when I die, my ghost will haunt your ancestors. A lot of other stuff is cool, though. I mean, I participated in a couple of those events myself. And generally, I just wanted to keep doing it because everyone else who had worked on it in the past was also always sick. So they always got canceled after a while. And I felt like, well, now I get to be part of the problem, Lamau. Oops, I guess. Fuck. Anyway. When I was given the choice, it was like, it's just way more important to me to get something working. And I guess it's a bit late, but I know Kami knows about this, but for the people watching later, on the Saturday of this week, we're gonna try running a small game that I wouldn't call it like a traditional tabletop game. It's not like making a character and going on like quests and looting stuff, but it is a tabletop game. It's pretty light on rules. It's pretty easy. And hopefully when we do that, there will be more than just me and one other person showing up. I would like at least 3 people, if I'm honest. Like, it can be played with just 2 people, but it's best with like 3 or 4. And if that works out, I want to introduce people to some of the other games that I like. The high grab is absolutely kicking my ass right now. Wow, garbage score. Better than last time. Who needs drama? When you have real life, Lamau. Your ghost will haunt my ancestors who are likely dead at that point, too. I meant to say your descendants. Look, in my defense, I'm tired. Anyway, the idea that I keep thinking of reviving for the Discord is like, our Discord server, because we based it around like competitive games, we were like, hey, wouldn't it be cool if there was a lore reason for people to be competing with each other? So we came up with the idea that the server is based on like a divided part of the world, and it's like there are 4 factions that want to seize power. And they seize power instead of having endless bloody wars with each other by just playing games of skill and savvy. And this is how they maintain peace, basically. And when you join the server, we didn't really have the best game plan for how to assign people a guild. We just did it randomly, and if people suggested to be, or requested to be in a different one, we would let them. Unless the guild had too many members already. My defense words are hard. Yeah, they are. Oh. You know, I'll be right back. I gotta get a tissue, and probably something to drink that's not, like, life-draining caffeine. And we're back. Oh, Okami has to go. Well, that's fair. I'm just gonna keep rambling. Because I'll probably put this on YouTube or something. Just to have something to upload. And then everyone can look at my terrible gameplay. Of, like, nothing. Damn, I should have just played Minecraft or something while I felt like ranting. But I didn't really expect this to be what I would be doing tonight. I thought I was gonna be playing a dumb game for a lot longer than the game ended up lasting. What the fuck was that? What even was that move thing? What even was that? That's not a move that exists. That's not a move that exists at all. Alright, well, whatever. Something I thought about doing was, and I have sort of asked Kook about this too. I've asked her if she wants to do this with me. Like, reviving the whole guilds thing on my server. And I don't know how exactly it would happen. It really kind of depends. Like, again, it'd have to be something my health can manage, and I'm too old for competitive games. Like, y'all see my fucking Tetris gameplay. It is abysmal. So I thought about this a lot, and eventually I asked Kook, I'm like, hey, let's get some stuff going, but Kook isn't really that kind of person, and never really was. I think Kook is the kind of person that, like, she can definitely manage a community. She has moderator experience. But she's not a social person. She doesn't really have that desire. She, kind of likes the more general moderation stuff, as opposed to, I mean, she does like to make events and stuff, but she's more of a designer kind of thing. Like, she's had this, like, pie-in-the-sky idea for a while about making a Minecraft server, and we sometimes rib her about how every new version, she's like, oh, I'll just wait for the next version, and then the next version becomes the next version. It's just become like, where's the server, kook? But anyway. Wow, this is garbage gameplay. Never mind, I'm back. Lol, hi, Okami. I forgot to get a tissue. Hold up, I'm gonna not blow my nose right into the mic. I'll be right back. Give me a sec. Alright. Bare minimum, ever look for on a Discord server is for a memes channel to exist. Fair enough. It was the first channel I made so I could quarantine the bullshit. I think having a memes channel in a Discord is important for two reasons. One, I am a joyless husk that gets upset if memes interrupt my extremely serious attempts at sparking discourse. And by sparking discourse, I mean generating content for Flame Wars to exist. But two, and this is probably the more important of the two things, it gives people an easy place to share content which does not require necessarily, like, involved discussion. Because involved discussion is important to encourage in a community, but not everybody interacts that way on the internet, and especially not all the time. Some of my really close friends almost exclusively communicate through memes. And a lot of that is because they're either tired, autistic, and struggle with communication, or, at least in one person's case, both. Like, a lot of daily interactions I've had with my best friend have been mostly sharing stupid memes we find online. And sometimes they actually do spark a discussion, but sometimes it's just like silly bullshit, and it's kind of like a form of internet-specific communication that can be pretty, it can be two-sided in a way that does not really... I don't really know how to explain this. I used to just not appreciate this when I was younger, too. I used to think, oh, memes, you're not really talking to each other. You're not really sharing anything with each other. No, you are. And explaining what that is difficult, but over the years, I've kind of gained an appreciation for channels that just allow people to not only share memes, but also, like, other types of pictures. Because the internet is like a multimedia kind of communication thing. We don't just have text, and we don't just have like voice or whatever. We also share links a lot. Sharing links is like inherent to internet culture, and Jesus Christ, look at that time. Fucking 2 minutes and 18 seconds. This is like actual amateur hour. All of my times on this leaderboard look so fake right now because they just do not... I can't come close. I think I could if I weren't also talking and, like, using this as just a thing to keep my hands busy. Thankfully, there's no rule on Twitch against just keeping your hands busy while your stream effectively becomes a podcast. So long as you're not, like, breastfeeding or whatever, I guess. Anyway. Oh wait, Twitch does actually allow you to breastfeed, don't they? Which is based. I don't remember if they do that now. Twitch goes, like, back and forth on its own rules all the time. YouTube is actually more consistent by this point, which is a pretty low bar to clear. Being, like, more consistent than YouTube. But yeah, no, memes channels, animal channels, art channels, even channels just to post YouTube videos, or in a channel, in a Discord server that isn't exclusively about gaming, a video games channel, or a media channel is important. And, you know, if you've been on the internet long enough, it becomes kind of obvious that, like, this is a meaningful form of communication. It does actually have two sides. Sharing one-off things is nice, too. Or just chatting plus gameplay, yeah. I think there's, like, a category for this, and I just didn't mark it, because I didn't expect the stream to become this. I didn't even check my time. I'm sure it was fucking shit, so I don't care. I learned a lot of this stuff in hindsight about managing communities and what different types of priorities for communities look like. Like, the community that I vaguely shit-talked earlier, I don't want to give them too much shit for the way that they manage their Discord, because they clearly did not make it with the goals in mind that I have. And what they do for it appears to work, and it has a lot of people in it, and some of those people are active, so there are definitely people who are fine with that environment, even if it's, like, not... I don't want to say that it's hostile toward communities existing, like, normal on the internet, but it's definitely not ideal for it. It doesn't really support that kind of culture, but what they do is fine for what they are. And some spaces online are just like that. They have different priorities. And I guess, when you start to, like, recognize the differences in priorities on different, like, websites and forums and certain, like, IRC and Discord servers now, it becomes easier to kind of understand why stuff like just channels to share links is so important. Because, you know, if you don't really think about it that much, and you only come from, I want to say, this is a really bad descriptor, but it's probably the only one that really works today, like Reddit-style communities, where discussion is king, so to speak. Like, if you're on Reddit, you're there to talk. You're there to discuss something. Reddit has whole functions for doing that, as opposed to something like Twitter, which is more about just sharing content. And, like, you can have a discussion on Twitter, and honestly, your mileage is about the same on whether or not the discussion turns into a toxic flame war on both Reddit and Twitter. But, like, Reddit is set up for that. Trying to discuss things on Twitter is a bit like hacking Melee into being a fighting game. It's a thing you can do, and there are definitely people who do it, and it's definitely been successful for years. But you're kind of breaking the system to make that work. Whereas Reddit has the tools for not only community-oriented, like, it has a karma system, which I don't like karma systems personally, but the karma system in its purest form is like, it brings the content that particular community views as important to the top, and the content that specific community views as less important gets pushed down, which generates discussion around what are the most relevant or interesting topics to that community. In reality, it's a pissing contest, because humans are stupid. But the philosophy behind it is basically that it's a form of, like, self-curation for communities. So, if someone's trolling and posting a bunch of irrelevant garbage in the subreddit and it gets downvoted, because someone's being a troll, no moderator action had to take place for that person to have their stuff basically downvoted so far it got hidden. Which, you know, there's a bit to say about having your moderation be that kind of democratic. Like, it's not a perfect system, but the other thing is, like, content that is very contributory or interesting to the community, or that generates the most, like, discussion or interest, gets pushed to the top, and then more people engage with it, which is basically a rich get richer situation, but it's also, like, just a way of organizing stuff. Like, it's a kind of algorithm for organizing stuff that keeps people engaged with the system, because Reddit is set up for discussion and Twitter just isn't. So it's kind of like, I think about this a lot more than I should, probably, because my specific interest is in building online communities, and I actually really care about doing that, probably more than is healthy. I mean, there's that whole meme about Discord mods being, like, just fat fucks that do nothing but, like, eat Doritos and play video games. Which, I mean, guilty. I do at least one of those things. It's not the play video games part. We don't play video games on this part of the internet. Video games are sucking for losers. This gameplay is absolute trash. If I said I was a game designer based on my Tetris gameplay alone, so many people would believe me, just because game designers can't play video games either. If you think that opinion is controversial and wrong, go talk to a game designer. I've met so many game designers that will make jokes about how game designers can't play games. I wonder where that originates from, because it's definitely not true. Like, Maddie Thorson used to stream, playing Kaizo Mario. I think about that sometimes, like, about how originally Celeste was such an insanely hard game that, the other developers had to practically, like, dogpile Maddie and be like, no, you can't add this. That'll make the game literally unplayable for most people. And so she put it in the B-sides instead. Because she didn't have to pull any punches with the B-sides. And she did this because she thought she was worried about the main game being too easy and boring, and she had to basically be told what was reasonable difficulty for normal people, which kind of sounds like a Zelda 2 moment, except having the sense to, like, ask. Spicy nacho or Cool Ranch? Cool Ranch Doritos are the most amazing flavor of Dorito. I don't know why, but, like, I have the worst buildup of mucus in the back of my head. I've had a headache for a week. It has not gone away. I thought I had an infection. I might have had an infection. Took an antibiotic for, you know, as long as my doctor told me to. I'm still taking it. I should have just played Spyro again. It's too close to, like, when I normally do it. I'm tempted to do that. I'm tempted to boot up Spyro and play Spyro again, and it'll take, like, 4 hours. Oh, okay. well, anyway, I don't know, I had a lot of thoughts about Discord stuff. I wanted to get out. I have sometimes asked, tacitly, if anyone... excuse me. If anyone in the old, like... Because after our Discord idea kind of flopped, we all actually stayed in the same group chat. Like, we didn't leave it. And really, we only formed it, kind of to talk about that, like, server idea, and then it just became general purpose hangout. A couple people left because of their own reasons that, I could probably speculate on, but I won't, because I don't really know why they left the project, and then, you know, contact just didn't resume. But we had a defector after we left. One of the, like, most staunch defenders of the admin eventually kind of realized that he's a bit of an asshole sometimes. And, he, asked to, like, join... There was, like, this conception on that Discord that we had a secret, like, club we were planning a coup in. And we kind of ran with that because it was funny. But he asked to join it so he could talk to us. And, like, so we were like, sure, whatever. And he did. And it was kind of indicating. So now it's just like a group chat for like what used to be our little planning base of operations while we were still setting stuff up, because we didn't originally have an admin channel. We didn't really want to make a permanent channel while we were still, like, setting everything up. That just ended up getting deleted, and then there went all the logs. But anyway, I have posited the question a couple of times and been like, hey, so if I do XYZ, if I, like, have this project, if I, like, try to revive something, or if I have, like, a use for an idea, does anyone want to do it? And generally I've gotten a lot of no's, or a bunch of dead answers. I guess everyone's kind of got their own lives going on now. Like, the people who were in high school are now in college. And again, I think that they were good moderators, generally, but I don't think that interest is still there to really be a moderator as much as work on their own projects. I've had the inkling to make a role-playing Discord, just specifically for a specific setting that I invented 2 years ago that would just be separate from the main Discord. And I've kept thinking about, should I turn the main Discord into that, or should I make another one specifically for it? And I don't really know. Because at this point my Discord became a streamer's Discord. Honestly, I'm not sure if I regret that. I mean, I clearly have regrets about it, but overall, I don't really think it's a terrible thing, per se. I cannot fucking play this game. I've had this idea in my head about what a leader should be, or, you know, what, like, someone who, directs a project should be like for a long time. And I guess I thought, well, they're confident, they're good with people, they know how to delegate, and then in my head, also, there's the idea of what a good project lead is not. And it's like every horror story you've ever heard about, like, indie auteur game designers. It's like, Peter Molyneux, it's David Cage, it's the guy who directed Mountain. It's like a lot of the people that Annapurna Studios enables. You know, the, like, toxic, abusive, dangerous, messed up, probably, like, genuinely mentally ill people that end up in charge of a lot of other people and, run them into the ground, burn all their bridges, and get away with it because the publisher wants to, like, sell games on the false narrative of a genius designer. And every time I think about what makes a good project lead and what makes a bad one, I always think of myself in the latter category, because well, because I have the worst temper in the universe, am pretty toxic sometimes, and, my gamer rage on stream is definitely not for the camera. Which I've said multiple times on stream before, and I think a part of me is genuinely worried that if I ever ended up managing a lot of other people, I would probably become the kind of person that integral journalistic YouTube channels make exposés on. And I'm worried about that for the obvious reason of I don't want to be made fun of by people on the internet because my ego is tiny and fragile and can't really handle being bullied. But also, I don't really want to become someone who puts other people's lives and health at risk. And I worry about how easy it is to become that person. So I don't like to be project leads. I feel like I'm exactly the kind of person who would be a bad one. But I'm also... And this isn't a brag. Like, this isn't, pie in the sky, getting an idea in my head based on, like, vague feedback. Brag or whatever. This is something I have, unfortunately, had to confront as true. I end up being the person with the most, like, concrete ideas a lot of the time. I might genuinely be good at being that person. And if I had the energy a lot more, I'd probably also be a lot more enthusiastic in the way that I express some of my ideas. And people have followed me. Not just the old group from the old Sonic server, but, like, when I make stuff, and I make spaces for people, like making, like, the prototype of a small role-playing group on a forum, or, even just, like, organizing a tabletop game, I get people to show up to stuff. Maybe it's not a lot of people, and maybe sometimes there are cancellations, Or maybe someone just looks at a project and says, this is more than I bargained for. Which happens sometimes. But I've kind of learned over the years that even getting somebody to just show up to something is actually kind of rare. Like, people put faith in the things that I suggest, and that's terrifying because that's actually kind of a really big responsibility. Say, such a think the most. Not the best, but the most. I definitely think the most. I've also heard that. I've heard the, well, I'm the analytical one. Or I'm the one who goes out of my way to say, okay, well, we as a group are struggling. How do we fix the problem where we're struggling? What's everyone good at? What are everyone's goals? And it just kind of happens that, like, sometimes the person who's quote-unquote best for the job is the person who asks those questions first. Or who is just interested in those questions the most. And that sucks for me. Because I don't know how to do that. And I don't know how to do it in a healthy way. I'm not even joking. I've had multiple conversations with friends who have moderation experience in the last year alone about how do I moderate a space in like a healthy and reasonable way, taking into account everybody's individual needs, making sure that people feel not only like they are safe to express themselves in a space, but also like they will have an equal amount of representation from the person who has to arbitrate the rules, which is unfortunately gonna be me. And how do I remove, like, how do I reasonably remove as much bias from those things as I can? And the answer to that one is, well, you get more people, ideally people that you both trust in this position, and who are level-headed about how they deal with people. Makes sense to me. I guess. I've definitely had a lot of thoughts about that. I've, like, moderated on forums and stuff, and IRC, and, like, later Skype groups and Discord servers and things, since I was, like, 15. I've been doing what is kind of... I don't want to say that kids can't be moderators either. Like, they can be. Maybe it's not always the best idea, because sometimes moderation involves looking at uncomfortable content, because, well, sometimes you have to get rid of it, and it can be unsettling, but also there might be legal issues with having kids look at content, even if it's, like, unintentional and against the site rules, if they have to look at it at all. You know, you could still be liable and stuff. But that's kind of the only thing, like, kids are not inherently bad moderators. But in my case, it was definitely kind of an issue of, like, I was socialized on a very different internet. It was a lot rougher. I don't want to say that it was better, but I was definitely more used to the rules. More used to, like, I'd have to be less tired to explain that. There were just nuances that existed back then. And they were like a bunch of silent contracts about like how to conduct yourself, how to it was just different back then, honestly, and I never really fully caught up with the modern internet, but either way, I've been doing this for a long time, and, thought I was pretty good at it until pretty recently when I started having, like, due to some life stuff that's a bit unrelated to everything else, questions about whether or not some of the decisions that I used to make were actually good ones. And I used to think I had reasonable answers to difficult questions about how do you actually, like, make a place safe and healthy. And I couldn't really say. I don't think I have those answers anymore. I don't think I have, like, I don't think I have bad takes about it. Like, I don't really go out of my way to be edgy with people's safety and well-being. Because, I really wouldn't even know how to start. But I don't, really know what I'm doing. I think what's going to end up happening with the Discord is I'm going to end up trying to kind of... It was never really... I don't want to say it was ever focused on, like, a streaming server anyway. Like, it kind of never was. It was just kind of a... I was kind of doing that because I like doing it. But I want to pivot it back toward, like, harder toward what it was supposed to be. My one thing, and I said this before, but I still kind of want it, is, like, I would be ecstatic if, like, I could get people besides me actually working on things like events and stuff. I don't really think that's gonna happen, though. And I'm not really sure what shape it'll take, in the end, honestly. I hope the game, this Saturday works out. I would like to do things like watch parties. I'd like to do things in actual Discord calls with streaming that I can't really do on Twitch. I'd like to have, some kind of, like, online or board game thing going on. Just stuff that ideally is fun, relaxed. Like I said, I've got some plans. I don't know when I'll drop them. Like, it kind of depends on... I'm starting to see a pattern with these, actually. Do you have to go now? We're listening to the story or event session. I don't think it's event session. That's fair. I can feel the painkiller really starting to kick in. Whatever it's done to, like, back of my head, it's loosened up a hell of a lot of something. So I guess I'm just gonna burn through tissues tonight. It's almost 1 in the morning. Lol. Anyway, don't know if I mentioned this on stream tonight, but I have a Discord that you can join if I don't fuck up the command. There we go. And I want to do more stuff with it, and I would like to have a community of people who like doing stuff with it, and I will try my damnedest to make it work to the best of my ability. And if events get cancelled, it's probably because I overslept or had a migraine. There's the deep shroom lore. Maybe I should go get pizza. We actually have pineapple pizza in the house, and I played pineapple on pizza earlier in the night, so it's pretty funny. I kind of wanted to do other updates and just ended up kind of rambling about deep lore. Honestly, if anyone wants a more complete version of the confused, painkiller-induced ramble, where I just talk about the fucking origin story of the Discord, I can put a text version of it in my actual Discord. It was kind of a lot. I'd also be able to get the input of a couple of people who remember those days because they're in my Discord. I made it as like a resignation of I have to be the leader. I have to be the change I want to see in the world. I still don't know how to do that. Like, at all. I'm doing the best I can. And I just kind of hope it works out.